This is the IDP After Show.
Hello and welcome to the IDP After Show. I am your host, Jeff Pomazal. In this episode of the IDP After Show, we're going to be starting our IDP Battle Royale series for 2024. To help me break down tonight's divisions and jumpstart the series, I could not have been asked for a better co-host or a better human being. I'm joined by the funny, the intelligent, the dashing, Mr. Aron Evers. Aron, how are you doing tonight?
I have never been introduced in that way, so I'm a little bit like, probably for the first time in my life, I think I'm speechless. Funny, cool, intelligent, we can argue that offline. Dashing, that's not an adjective ever used for me. So my stomach is in flutters, Jeff, and I really appreciate it. I'm good, man. I'm good.
Well, most of our people listen on podcasts, so they can't see us anyway. So that's
yeah. No one's going to refute your statement at all. So right. That's great.
Well, perfect. So for those of you that are new to the Battle Royale series, my guest and I will be pitting the AFC against an NFC counterpart by setting an all-star lineup and seeing which division comes out on top from an IDP fantasy perspective. The starting lineups will consist of 2 defensive tackles, 2 defensive ends, 3 linebackers, 2 cornerbacks, 2 safeties, and 1 flex position from each division. We'll be awarding points for each win at each positional group and then crowning an overall divisional winner by the end of the show. Now, some of the players that we're mentioning here today might not be the best NFL players at the position, but as you're fully aware, if you play IDP, it's not always about being the best at your position to be the best scoring. In this episode, we'll be diving into the AFC and NFC North divisions. So current players from the Browns, Ravens, Bengals, and Steelers will be taking on an all-star lineup from the Lions, Bears, Packers, and Vikings. With that said, Aron, are you ready to get this party started?
Yes, mate, I am. I can't wait.
All right, and I see the cats have made an appearance. So,
dude, I didn't realize until I looked behind me. I saw him climb up the chair. I was like, oh, if this goes out on video form, like I'm just gonna have to stone face it. So,
we're good. We're good. All right, so the cats are excited. I'm excited. Yes. Aron, who do you have representing the AFC North?
So, at defensive tackle, I've got Justin Madubuike and Cameron Hayward. So I've got sort of like the old veteran and the new hotness. And the defensive end, I've got Myles Garrett, and as Adam loves to refer to him, Trent Jordan Watt, like he deserves to be full named. Then I've got Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen, and Mum's Meatloaf, Logan Wilson there at the linebacker. I've got Dax Hill and Arthur Mollett scraping the bottom of the barrel for my cornerback position. I've got Kyle Hamilton and Minkah Fitzpatrick at strong safety, and I have the luxury of being able to flex Trey Hendrickson.
And so we couldn't have everyone make the list. So who are some players, Aron, that just missed the cut? Who are some like honorable mention players?
Yeah, so I did have some tough, like, mate, I had some real tough decisions to make. So JOK, so Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and then obviously the new acquisition there in Cleveland, Jordan Hicks coming over from Minnesota. Trenton Simpson, who's everybody's sort of like breakout pick there, moving into the Patrick Queen role. Alex Highsmith, who is just the perfect number 2 there for TJ Watt. And then also, depending on what Cincinnati do at the safety role, like Dax Hill has been moved to corner. So whoever they put into that sort of box banger there, whether it's Geno Stone, Von Bell, or Jordan Battle, one of those guys I think is really going to pop this season as well.
So, Aron, as you were looking through, choices for who to plug and play in each of these positions, was there anything that stood out from you from as far as like a player or a positional aspect from the AFC North?
Yeah, for sure. I think the AFC North is just unreal when it comes to pass rushes. Like the fact that I have the pleasure of being able to roll out, at one point in time, it would have been people's like dynasty, like edge 1 and 2. And even now in redraft, these guys are both top 5 redraft picks in TJ Watt and Myles Garrett. Like in the best balls that we're running, both of them are going top 5, like regardless of position. Madubuike, I think, really props up my defensive tackle position. Like if he hadn't had his breakout last season, I would have again felt like I would have been scraping the bottom of the barrel. Like DT, we talk about it being really, really deep, but I feel like it's kind of concentrated to the NFC is where a lot of the really good ones are. And then for Kyle Hamilton, the safety position, like it's just, as a Kyle Hamilton owner in multiple dynasty leagues, it's such a joy to know that your safety position is just locked up the moment you just put it. He's such a set and forget guy, and was like Minka was that, and then he's obviously dropped off massively with his injury in his half season this past year. But 27 years old, there's no reason why he can't get back to that. So depth was something that really stood out to me for the AFC. Like they've got ballers at every level apart from cornerback for the defense side of the ball for sure.
Yeah, and that's, something we talk about, like positional, like scarcity or like positional advantage. Like we talk about Travis Kelce having that position advantage at tight end. He just leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else. You look at the AFC defensive starters that you've amassed here, and it's such a positional value advantage at defensive tackle, defensive end, not even just like 1 to 2, but like the distance that 1 and 2 separate from the rest of the pack. I feel is like a huge advantage for the AFC North here. Like it's just, it's like a cheat code here. So
yeah, I think especially at defensive end, having Trey Hendrickson like slot into the flex spot, I feel like you could stack the AFC North like defensive ends up against any other division in the league, and they'd probably still come out on top.
Well, this is only the first week, so let's not get ahead of ourselves crowning in the overall championship. So
I was talking about DE. I was talking about defensive end, not the whole thing, just defensive end.
All right, we'll come back in a couple of weeks and we'll see where we're at. So, all right. Well, on the flip side of that, we're going to take a look at the NFC North as their opponent, and like we alluded to, Aron, with the advantage that the AFC has here, it's the cliff really goes quickly on the NFC side. Like you might have 1 or 2 decent players at a position, but then it quickly falls off. Like as opposed to the AFC, you were like your flex player is a defensive end or a defensive tackle. And so that's just the nature of the beast right now. At defensive tackle for the NFC North, we had Harrison Phillips and Kenny Clark. At defensive end, we had Montez Sweat and Aiden Hutchinson. At the 3 linebacker positions, we had TJ Edwards, Quay Walker, and as sick as it is to put him in here, we're going to put in the Alex Singleton of the NFC. We're going to put in Alex Anzalone as our 3rd linebacker. Cornerback position, we have Tyreek Stevenson, who had a great breakout season last season for the Bears, and then Brian Branch, who had a great breakout season for Detroit as well. At the safety position, we have a newcomer to the division in Xavier McKinney. Cameron Bynum is our other strong safety. And then at flex, we're going to try to take advantage of the new kickoff rule and sneak in Keyshawn Nixon of the Packers there. So some of the players that were left out, DJ Reader, who came over from the Bengals and now is playing for the Lions, could be a decent fit there in Detroit. Jonathan Grenard came from Houston and is now in Minnesota. Rashawn Gary has kind of had a decent career for the Packers. He was playing really well until he got paid last season. And then all of a sudden he just kind of, I don't know if he's carrying around too many Scrooge money bags and couldn't get to the quarterback after he signed his contract.
Coming off the ACL as well, like, we got to give him, like, he was on track to have sort of that breakout season and then tore the ACL, and then this last year was first season back. So I'm willing to cut him some slack and give him some leeway there.
Yeah, he just seemed to be playing a little better before he got paid last season, and that's coming from a very biased Packer fan. So just a couple more honorable mentions here. We had Tremaine Edmonds as a linebacker, also from the Bears. I just had a hard time putting in 2 players from the same position. It's almost kind of like having them on your roster. It's tough to have both because they're going to kind of cannibalize each other. Josh Metellus had a great season last year for Minnesota. Kevin Byard is coming over from Philadelphia. He's now in Chicago. And along with Jaquan Brisker is our other option there at honorable mention. So, Aron, with those names that we mentioned for the NFC North, is there anything that's sticking out to you as far as a positional advantage, disadvantage, or player props or anything like that?
Yeah, so I'm going to butcher his name. I know I am. But the safety for the Lions, Melifonwu, is that it? Melifonwu? Is he someone that sort of came into consideration for you at all?
I know that last year he was a waiver wire darling, probably about week 13, 14 and into the playoffs. Just didn't just the longevity piece wasn't really something I wanted to like plant my flag on, especially if he would have been in there over someone like Cameron Bynum or Josh Metellus. They were both really strong considerations there. And even having, like the starting Keyshawn Nixon there in the flex, he's kind of like that wild card option. So like we had talked a little bit about too, the back end of the NFC North is pretty deep and strong, whereas the AFC is a little bit, if they have a weakness, that's probably where it's at.
Yeah, for sure. I look at the corners for sure where you're able to flex Keyshawn Nixon, and I was literally just Googling corners to try and find to put into this for the AFC North, but like from an IDP perspective, like because that's the thing. It's like it's all very well and good to have great corners, but great corners don't necessarily score well in IDP. Because,
right. And like Sauce Gardner's a great example of that. Like he's like great for the NFL, great for the New York Jets, but probably not so great for your fantasy team because he kind of doesn't get the volume that he needs to be IDP relevant.
Patrick Surtain as well in Denver, same sort of thing. And like when we were growing up, it's, they were talking about like Revis Island. Like Revis was never anybody you ever wanted an IDP because they weren't thrown at him. So if you're not getting thrown at, you're not getting tackles, you're not getting PDs, you're not getting any of that good stuff that scores you those sweet fantasy points.
Yeah, and so we kind of mentioned that, in the precursors to the show about, like some of the names that we're going to be mentioning maybe aren't like the high-end recognition Pro Bowl caliber names you're going to see playing in January and February. But again, it's more about opportunity and getting that volume, like you said. So maybe playing opposite Sauce Gardner is going to be more IDP relevant than Sauce Gardner himself. So
for sure.
All right. So as we kind of like look at breaking down some of these positional things, Aron, is there any takeaways from the AFC defensive tackle position between Madubuike and Cameron Hayward, why those players were selected, or as far as like juicy nuggets you want to throw out to us?
So Madubuike, sort of like when I looked over the format and everything, straight away I just went perfect. Like the breakout campaign, he just got paid. And he's now slotted in as if we look at dynasty format, he's seen as like dynasty top 4 defensive tackle now. If you look at him from a redraft perspective, so for our best balls that we're looking at, he's still going. He's still going in the top 3 or 4 at the position for the best ball side of things as well. So it was trying to find someone to back him up. And then I sort of thought about it and I was like, you know what? Like when you've got that difference maker at a position like defensive tackle where predominantly you're only going to be playing a onesie anyway. Like if you're in D tackle required leagues, unless you're an absolute sicko, you're not playing in 2 D tackle required leagues. So having that true difference maker will generally just win you that position. Cameron Hayward, just old man strength. Like I'm hoping for like some form of bounce back. I was having a look over his PFS grading from every year before this year, and it's just sick because it's just blue. It's like everywhere you look before 2023, it's just blue. It's like 2022. His average PFF, like overall defensive grade, would have been like 89.9. And then he has a 91.5 in 2019 and 89.1 in 2017. The dude has just been like model consistency, but Father Time is undefeated. And that's where I was like, well, if I'm going to take a swing, like, if there's somebody going to back up your elite asset, take someone with a high upside and just swing for the fences. So that was definitely my sort of reasoning why I grabbed Hayward as opposed to some of the other guys like a BJ Hill or something like that from Cincinnati, or in Pittsburgh, the guy that moved across from Cleveland, and his name Larry Ogunjobi was another one that I looked at as well. But yeah, it was Hayward because it was like swing for the upside if he performs anywhere near like what he used to.
Yeah, and the thing with Hayward, he only played in like the 11 games last season, but he was still ultra efficient in those 11 games. It's not like his game has fallen off. He just didn't play in a number of volume of games. Yeah, so he still scored 67 points at Big 3, which was really efficient as far as the defensive tackles go. He finished 7th overall in PF efficiency last season from the defensive tackle position. So it's not like his game has gotten bad. And when you were mentioning like the scoring and the grade, his last season of 71.9 was still only he had 5 seasons less than that. So it's not like he's, and the guy's been playing going into his 13th season. So, that's,
it's you said, it's just an absolute monster. Like it's, you look at last season, you're like, oh, anomaly. He was injured. And then if he can come back, and this is something that the guys on the main show will always talk about, like that old man strength in the middle, that defensive tackles can generally play longer than you would expect out on the edge or especially like linebacker or safety, where the drop off is so rapid once you hit that age cliff.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, like Father Time's undefeated, but I still think if you're going to have a number 2 and your number 2 is Cameron Hayward, I think you're going to be in pretty good shape. Kind of going forward for
old man strength will hold off Father Time for one more season.
So probably the easiest position for you to select players was the defensive end position. It was probably the deepest at the AFC North, but it was kind of a layup for which 2 players you pick. So anything you want to mention about?
I mean, like the only thing that people might sort of look at is TJ Watt's 30, Myles Garrett's 28, and it's like, don't overthink it. Like these 2 guys are elite. Like TJ Watt finished as edge 1 last year. Myles Garrett, if I'm looking at it, he came up and he was edge number 8. In his 2023 finish with 17.2 points per game. Both of them have got big money contracts. Myles Garrett's under contract until they haven't got an out until 2025. TJ hasn't got an out until 2025 either. Like, it's just the sack numbers, the pressure rate. So TJ's career pressure rate is 14.1. Myles Garrett's career pressure rate 13.6. Anytime you're above a career pressure rate of 12, like you're in good stead. So both of these 2 guys, it was like, I don't think I could have been any more comfortable picking any other position for any other division sort of thing. It wasn't even like a research exercise. It was a box ticking exercise. It was like, right. It was like edge, right. TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, move on.
If you didn't select them, there would probably be something.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I'd still have Trey Hendrickson, but then I'd also have a lot of controversy to explain.
And like we kind of talked about too, like I think just speaks to the depth of the position that the AFC has. Like the AFC North legit has the number 1 and number 2 edge players in redraft for sure, and probably arguably in dynasty. Because I don't think in a dynasty league we need to look much beyond 2 or 3 year windows. And I think Garrett and Watt definitely have elite upside for at least the next 2 or 3 seasons.
But that's the thing. It's like you're like the other guys that would be, and I literally just listened to the main shows, top 24 edges where they covered all of this. It's like Nick Bosa is one, but it's like the division that he's in the NFC West. It's like, who do you pair with Nick Bosa? It's like Max Crosby in the AFC West. Who do you pair with Max Crosby? Like Micah Parsons, NFC East. Who do you pair with Micah Parsons? Like, are you going like a Brian Burns or a Kayvon Thibodeau or something like that? Like, like the ability to have just 1-2, just box tick, done. It's a luxury that just none of the other divisions, I don't think, without extra thought. Like, there's nothing that comes to mind instantly. You can look at it and go, oh, I'll make my way down the list. Oh, there we go. Yep, cool. But there's nothing that instantly just snap into your head. Like, yep, 1 and 2.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think if you go a different route, you're just looking for clicks or something, because it's overthinking it otherwise. So, all right, let's move on to your linebackers here, Aron. And maybe there was a little bit of thought, especially maybe after you got past 1 and 2. What were your thoughts here with your linebackers?
To be honest, even 2 was a little bit of a thought. Like, once I got so Roquan was he filled himself in there like he does in the game. Like he slotted into the gap and he made the play. He became my linebacker 1. Pat Queen, because of the change of scenery, made me hesitate slightly. It's just, if you look at how he played before Roquan and then how he played after Roquan arrived, there's just such a noticeable difference in the quality of play and in the quantity of plays that were made as well. Like, he operated so well as Robin. Now he's going to be Batman in Pittsburgh. So it was a little bit like, because then I started looking. I was like, well, I literally coined the term last year on one of these shows, "Mum's meatloaf" for Logan Wilson. Like my whole thing was, he is just Mr. Consistent. He will never win you the week, but he will damn sure make sure that you do not lose that week, because he'll come in with his lunch pail and his 12, 13 points a game, and you'll be happy with that. You might get a 20-pointer here or there. And JOK kind of had like a second breakout last year, like if we put it that way. So then it was like, well, if Queen's not going to cut it, then do I move Wilson up to 2, or do I even put JOK over Queen? And this is one thing. Is it just me, or is it like this next sort of younger players do not care about moving in division? Like I felt like this free agency, I saw a lot more players go to rival teams than I had seen, like Patrick Queen going from Baltimore to Pittsburgh. Like that to me seems wild, that you'd go play for like your most bitter rival, like Saquon going from the Giants to the Eagles. Like that feels like the next sort of generation of players coming through are like, this is a job, I'm getting paid, I'm making my money, no matter, and power to them. Go get your bag, young man. Like you have endured on the field in college, in pro football. Go get your bag. But it feels like, the older generation were always like, oh, no, this is a real rivalry. And these younger players are like, nah, man, like it's a job. I'm going to get my money and I'm going to go home.
Right. Yeah. And I think we're going to see more and more of that as like contracts are, becoming what they are and all of that. I just think it's going to be more commonplace than what it is. You wouldn't have seen Dick Butkus in a Green Bay Packer jersey or a Mike Singletary in anything but, in his Chicago Bears number 50, that just wouldn't have happened. So
absolutely. Like, no, you take anybody from that steel curtain defense and you try to put them in like in a Cleveland Browns uniform or a Baltimore Colts uniform sort of thing. And they're just like, they're looking at you like you got 3 heads.
All right. So I know that you already alluded to the fact that you weren't a big fan of your cornerbacks. Yeah, it's okay. This is a safe place. You can let it out. Thinking about, like the cornerbacks you selected. And again, it's not about name value necessarily in fantasy football production, but like Dax Hill coming over from the safety position, now playing corner. Kind of talk me through your thought process here a little.
So it was a little bit, and we used this word a lot when we were off air. It was a little bit hopium for Dax Hill, like, because I looked at, and I went through and I looked at all of his numbers and I was like, oh wow, if Dax Hill had played corner last year, like with the points he put up, he would have been cornerback 5. And it's like, well, if Dax Hill had played corner last year, he wouldn't have lined up where he lined up, and he wouldn't have put up all the points that he put up. So it's like that just doesn't matter at all. But it was more the fact that, Zach Taylor came out in this offseason. He said, Dax Hill's going to play corner. He's going to be doing that for us. Is he going to play outside corner? Is he going to play nickel? If he's going to play nickel, Mike Hilton was productive in the nickel corner role and that was why I didn't put Mike Hilton in, because I'm sort of using my head and going, well, Dax Hill was terrible in coverage. Like if I look at his coverage grade via PFF, like it was the worst of his grades. It was a 43.0 coverage grade. So it's like, are you really going to hang that man out on an island on the outside? I don't think so. Like he was best as a run defender, like 70.9 run defense grade, 76.6 tackle grade. So you're going to put him down in the box. You're going to put him as a nickel corner. You're going to put him up against tight ends and running backs coming out on the flats. So if he's going to play in the nickel role, Hilton was productive. That's sort of my line with there. I put Arthur Mollett in for my second corner, and that was literally because I had a look over our best ball ADP data, and he's currently going as CB14, and I'm just hoping that people know something I don't. It's like this. I was like, wow, these are some smart drafters we've got in there. Like they're taking him CB14. Like he's going to be doing something this year, maybe. I don't know.
So outside of, like the safety position or the cornerback position, so this is just kind of proves the point about, punt the position, stream, listen to Johnny the Greek every week.
Yeah, Johnny. Just listen to Johnny, read Johnny's article, and that will get you through what you need. Like his hit rate on corners is insane. So yeah,
play the matchups and things like that. Like, even looking at like Dax Hill's coverage grade last year. It wasn't great, and then if you're taking Dax Hill and you're putting him in the nickel, then you're moving Mike Hilton, you're having two players play out of position. Is that going to be better for your defense, or is you better off leaving Hilton in at the nickel spot where he excels and does well, and then only have Dax Hill playing out of position, and just kind of pick your poison that route. So.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I didn't understand the Von Bell signing when it came through. Like that made no sense to me. Like I thought Hill and Battle was sort of like the guys that were going to be the guys moving forward. Like we all had a lot of hopes for Jordan Battle in the coming season, and then they went out and they got Von Bell. And then they got Geno Stone from the Ravens. Again, another player moving in division. And I mean, Geno was great in a deep safety role, and he proved he was a ball hawk. So it's like maybe on that side of things, Taylor's like, we need to force more turnovers on the back end, and that's where that's going to come in. But it just felt like they overloaded that position, and then we're just like, oh, okay, well, Dax Hill's tall. We can play him at corner. So
that's kind of like that analogy. If you got five, you got none. Right. So
yeah, exactly. And Cincinnati's had none for a long time.
All right. Well, let's get past your weak spot here for the cornerbacks, and let's get back to a glory spot here for you with the safeties. So,
man, like how long ago I can wax poetically about Kyle Hamilton until the cows come home. Like I mentioned this on one of our shows last year, that when that draft pick came in, I was talking to Josh and the guys and Macri and everything in a Twitter DM chat, and I literally sent a video to I said to Macri, I was like, if Hamilton falls to the Ravens and we get him, I was like, the pants are coming off. And he's like, I don't believe you. And I sent a video to him of me running around my house swinging my pants around my head when we drafted him because I was over the moon. Like
the same day the internet broke. So
yeah. No, that was the day that Elon bought Twitter and all the new restrictions came in. It was pants and bio. No, it wasn't. But Kyle Hamilton is one of the few, especially in Dynasty, like a set and forget dude. Like outside of I still think Antoine Winfield is safety one because he is so dominant and he's only a few years older. Like I think he's 3 years older than Hamilton. So that sort of age gap doesn't mean anything to me. So it's like when he's putting up like 100 points more a season, like don't overcomplicate things. Like don't put the cart before the horse and be like, oh, well, you know what Hamilton could be. What Hamilton could be is what Winfield is. Winfield is safety one, but Hamilton is safety two. And it's safety two with a bullet to me. So having that, being able to slot one of those difference makers in for my position for this exercise, it was great. And then coming back and being able to grab Minka to go with him when Minka is he had a down year last year. Like he was always, when he came across from Miami and went to Pittsburgh, like he was always big play specific. Like he was never really a tackle monster guy, but he was forced fumbles, fumble recoveries, he was interceptions and stuff. He did none of that last year. Like he just struggled. He only played 10 games, but in those 10 games he racked up 64 tackles, 1 TFL and 3 PDs. That was it. The PFF gradings were good. Like he looked good, but I think at this moment, Pittsburgh are at a little bit of a crossroads with him because he was originally given a 4-year, $73 million deal. But from this year, like they're out for that deal, starts this year. So I think we might either see like a contract restructuring or, they go, look, end of the season, you're out. Because from every year on, he's got 2 years left in his deal. They save like $10 million like as a base if they decide to move on from him. He's still young. He's 27 and a half, but it was just only playing 10 games last year. And then the 10 games that he did play, he just didn't impact anything. Like he was a body. He was a warm body. But if he can ever get back to that ceiling, then, you've got what people are drafting at the moment in the ADP best balls. Like they're taking him at safety 9. So they're predicting the bounce back.
It almost feels like the safety position is almost like the running back position where it's kind of devalued on teams. Like it was on a run for a hot minute and everyone was signing these big contracts. And now all of a sudden teams are realizing that we don't have to invest that much in the safety position. Like teams are realizing maybe we don't have to invest that much in the running back position. It's kind of like that position of like teams overvalued for a while. And now we're kind of trying to trying to recoup some of that money. So maybe we'll be interested to see the roster and the contracts going forward.
I think that's a fair evaluation of it, because with the running backs, the cream of the crop are still going to get theirs. Like, they're still going to get their money. They're still going to get the high draft capital, whatever. Like, as we see with Winfield, literally, the deal that he literally just got, within the last week or something. And with running backs, we still see those big deals come through for those mega stars, and the draft capital come through. Bijan, 8th overall last season, Jahmyr Gibbs, 12th overall. Like, that investment will still be there if you're good enough. Otherwise, you're going to see teams going, right, what can we dumpster dive for?
Yep. And I think the Cowboys are a great example of that. They've got how many, they brought back Zeke on a contract and stuff like that. They've got Malik Davis. I mean, yeah.
Malik
this
Hooker,
is IDP. Yeah. This is IDP.
But on the back end, they do the same thing though. They've got Malik Hooker. They've got Donovan Wilson. Yep. Yeah. They just keep sort of cycling out the safeties and stuff. And we see it that, literally what Cincinnati just did, where they had two guys that we thought were going to be long-term options, and they went, we'll grab Geno Stone for cheap, and we'll get Von Bell back on cheap, and you see all of these players jumping teams, like Kevin Byard signs with the Bears, as you'll talk about.
Yep.
Like, it's just bodies, just get bodies and bodies and bodies, and pray something works.
And it'll be interesting to see, like, not to hit Dallas any more than we have to on this show, but just, now with Dan Quinn gone, how does that defense look? What's that new defense appear, the approach, are those players going to have their same role, but that'll be a show for the AFC, NFC East, I guess.
Yeah. It seemed like they wanted to play for DQ though. Like, he was you saw like player interviews and stuff like that. Like, he was a popular coach for them. So
yeah. All right. Lastly, you have your flex position, Trey Henderson. What are your thoughts?
A luxury. Like,
yeah,
this is a guy that would probably be a starting D end for a lot of other divisions. Like, it's wild to me, because at the moment he's going through contract discussions with Cincinnati. He's essentially said, trade me because you won't pay me. Like, he signed a big 4-year, $60 million deal a couple of years back. He got a $20 million extension tacked on last year, but now they've still got an out this season. And then the contract runs out into 2025, so they can get out from under him sort of whenever they want. And the savings are upwards of $12 million based on what he's owed per year. And he's obviously seen these mammoth deals come through for Brian Burns and Josh Allen and things like that, where these guys are getting five-year, $140 million. Like, and he's like, well, you're only paying me $18 million this year. Like, come on. I've averaged 13 sacks a year for the past 4 years. I put up 17.5 last year. And he put up 17.5 on like 600 snaps, like 744 snaps. He only played 68% of Cincinnati snaps. He played all 17 games, and he had 17.5 sacks, like 3 forced fumbles, 25 QB hits. He's never been the tackle guy. The tackle guy is Hubbard out of the two of those. And then we don't know what's going to happen with Miles Murphy coming through and Joseph Asai if he ever turns into anything. But like 17.5 sacks is like, there's usually like what? 1 guy, 2 guys a year that will put up that sort of numbers. So, like, if I can,
tandem of guys that will do that.
yeah, for sure.
He's got more than some teams have on their position. So.
Carolina, he's got more than Carolina,
especially now with Burns gone.
Oh God! But it's like, to be able to put that into my flex position, like, I felt like it was a luxury of riches, and then that was still someone I picked over like JOK. Like I said, I was mulling him over. Do I put him as a starter? Or Alex Highsmith has been sort of a really good sleeper pick for the last couple of years, and he's had like just good production every single week from the edge position as well. And then finally, if I wanted to go the Hopium route, Trenton Simpson, because does he become Patrick Queen? So yeah, being able to slot Hendrickson in, it felt like Willy Wonka and the Golden Ticket. I was Granddad. Suddenly Granddad's legs worked, and I hopped out of bed.
Lazy bum for all those years, and then all of a sudden he was well enough to go on the trip. So. All right, we're going to switch gears here a little bit. We're going to travel from the AFC over to the NFC North, and we're going to take a look at some of our players here. At the defensive tackle position, it really was a challenge to try to find two players. Unlike the AFC, where you can kind of maybe pick between 3 or 4 players, there really isn't that luxury in the NFC. And we kind of landed on Harrison Phillips, who had a really breakout season for the Vikings last year, played the most snaps that he's ever played. He did really well with the pressures and the hurries and things like that, but he had a mammoth season with tackles. And so with the changes in Minnesota now with, he just went to Texans, who went, Danielle Hunter leaving, and then they brought in Hunter went to the Texans, and then now with them bringing in the rookie Dallas Turner, they also brought in Jonathan Grenard. Like, what's that defense really going to look like now? Is he going to retain? Is he going to have to step up and do even more? So he was one of my players that I selected as a defensive tackle, and the other was Kenny Clark. Kenny Clark, probably more real life football player asset than he is a fantasy football player asset. But if you're playing defensive tackle, he probably could do worse at the position. He's done really well for the Packers. He's very consistent, right around 800 snaps every season. He's giving you a handful of sacks. He's giving you a lot of pressures, and pretty consistent tackles as well. So
he's the oldest player on that defense as well, isn't he? Like,
yeah,
he is. He's like their vet leader. Like, and he's only 28. Like,
I wish I was a veteran leader at the age of 28. So kind of switching gears, going to the defensive end position. One was a layup, Aiden Hutchinson. He's kind of the new shiny toy in the NFC North. He was probably the easiest player to pick out of all of the positions. Just really a nice jump from year 1 to year 2. He's kind of that centerpiece of the Detroit defense, which is only probably going to get better as the season goes on. So he was an easy one. And then again, a lot of new faces in the NFC North, players leaving the division, Danielle Hunter, players coming into the position, Jonathan Grenard. Even this player, Montez Sweat, came in from last season from Washington halfway through the season, had a pretty decent season for the Bears. He's going to kind of be my second piece. So again, going back to what you said, Aron, about the AFC just having such a huge advantage, the defensive end position, the whole defensive line position just shows how much of an advantage the AFC North has in this little exercise. So moving to the linebackers, we've got TJ Edwards. He was 4th overall last season in PFF grades. He had 360 points in Big 3 scoring. So he was an easy one to put in there. Tremaine Edmonds is going to be my second player. He had 202 points in Big 3 scoring last year, also playing for the Bears. And then, like we mentioned before, the Alex Singleton of the NFC is Alex Anzalone. Really wanted to put Jack Campbell in there, but Campbell just hasn't had that ascension in that role yet. Anzalone has kind of held him off. He's had really good seasons for Detroit, 212 points last season, pretty consistent. And Campbell loves him. He just really loves him as a player. He loves him on the field, and I don't see that coming off the field anytime soon. So those are my linebackers. I kind of toyed around the idea with maybe putting in like a Quay Walker, but there again, we're kind of running into that fact to where he's not really been the player that they want him to be. He had 109 points last season, 189 points last season for the Packers, and they drafted Edgerrin Cooper. So he might be kind of stealing some snaps, stealing some plays from him. So Quay Walker might not be that player that we all had wanted him to be. So moving to the cornerback position in the NFC, this is probably one of the areas of strength for the NFC North is with the secondary here. I had selected Tyreek Stevenson. He had 187 points last year in Big 3 scoring as a rookie. I just think the whole NFC North secondary is probably a premium position. Brian Branch, probably an easy layup here as well. Had an amazing season, especially playing in the nickel, kind of get those cheat code tackles. He had 181 points last season in Big 3 scoring. So those were kind of easy selections there for me. I was kind of probably toying around with the idea of Keyshawn Nixon there, but I kind of saved him as my flex just because of the new cheat code with the kickoff returns. So Rounding out my starting roster here for the NFC North, we had Xavier McKinney, who is now playing for the Green Bay Packers. He was the number 1 overall PFF safety last year at the position in the division. He had 206 points in Big 3 scoring. He had a true breakout season, led to a big payday for him as he came over to the Packers. Now they're playing under that new Jeff Hafley defense. So it's going to kind of be a gadget player, kind of moved around near the line of scrimmage, playing the back end. So I can see him having a lot of value just as far as like a gadget player. And then I had a hard time deciding between 2 Vikings at safety, either Josh Metellus or Cameron Bynum. And I opted for Cameron Bynum, who had a true breakout season. He finished with 216 points in Big 3 scoring. He was the 4th overall scorer last year. He also was very efficient with a PFF grade of the 8th overall. So, and finally, in my flex, I kind of alluded to it already. Keyshawn Nixon, again, anything that he gives you as a tackler, I think is a bonus. I think his big bread and butter is going to come in return yardage. So if you play in a league that rewards for return yards, Keyshawn Nixon is going to be a really sneaky play. He had 214 points last season, good for 5th overall. And he really didn't play a ton of snaps at the safety position. He only played about 800 snaps. And you compare that to Cameron Bynum, who finished with 216 points, 2 points more than him. Bynum played 1,100 snaps last season compared to Keyshawn Nixon. So 300 less snaps and 2 less points. So
and that's with the old style kickoff rules as well. Now we get the new CFL where it's running start. Well, no running starts or anything like that. Yep. It's just a wall of doom and go wild. So yep. I think he's just gonna. I'm a little bit worried though that he may get overdrafted because he's probably one of the only ones that we can actually properly pencil in and go, you are this team's returner. Rain or shine, like it doesn't matter. You are the returner. I feel like there's going to be a lot of things like in the best balls or people looking in their if they have like on the waivers and things like that come preseason where there's going to be big bids going in for that kick returner, and it's how much is that rule change actually going to play? Like, is it going to be that you might have 80 return yards a week. And it's like, if you get that 80 return yard, like that's 8 points. Amazing. Cool. But if you're not putting anything else on, like how much of a difference maker is 8 points really going to be? So, but for somebody like Nixon, who's still going to play 800 snaps and then still get his 80 return, and he's not just their kick returner, he's their punt returner as well. So it's like, 100, he racks up 110 return yards and then still makes 3 tackles and bats a pass, and it's like you're suddenly looking at like a 17, 18 point game, and it's just dumb.
And that's probably a very average week. Like that's not anything outstanding. That's not housing a return. That's not returning one for a touchdown. That's not a pick. That's no splash plays. That's just showing up regular week 7 stat line.
That's like 4 returns at like sort of, 18 yards of return sort of thing. And then like maybe 2 punt returns at like 8 yards each. And then, a couple of tackles and like he could have just a mediocre week. And then you're looking at him as like the DB3.
Yep. Do you have any hesitation with Nixon now that hopefully the Packers secondary is healthy? Last year, they were decimated by injuries on the corner position and safety position. This year, they brought in McKinney. They drafted Bullard. They kind of sounded like they really solidified the line, or Javion or Alexander or Howard or not Howard. Alexander's healthy. Stokes is sounding like he's gonna be there. Is there any worry about him losing snaps with that?
I mean, there has to be some. Like there'll have to be some sort of worry. But the thing is, at points last year, like he was playing outside corner. Like you don't want him playing outside corner. Like if they slot him in at nickel, then it's like perfect. And the thing is, I think he also might lose the occasional punt return or something to Jaden Reed as well. Like Jaden Reed is electric with the ball in his hand, so I can see LaFleur doing whatever he can to sort of get the ball in Reed's hands, and that might mean they split punt return duties or something one week. But at the nickel side of things, because I think that's probably where they would play him, that's great. Like because it's going to put him close to the line of scrimmage. He's going to be he's going to be on tight ends and running backs and things like that. Like it shouldn't really be a lot of guys that are going to cook him and then they're going to house it. Like if he gets cooked, you think he's probably going to have the athleticism to be able to come back and recover and still make it, at least he gets you 0.75 points because he's the assist on the tackle. So it's like even then you got cooked, but you gave me just under a point. Like, great. Yep. So yeah, I think there has to be some hesitation that he lose snaps, but the thing is, I think the quality of snaps will take over because him playing outside corner was not what you wanted from your as a Packer fan perspective, just because of his talent level as an outside corner, but then also as an IDP player because you want him close to the line, you want him being able to come down and support in the run and things like that, and play the ball over the middle as opposed to being out on the boundary.
No, I totally agree, and I just think he had a huge spike last season in snaps. He had played more snaps last year than he had played in his previous 4 seasons in the league. He went from 290 snaps the previous season in 2022 to 808 in 2023. So that's a huge spike in volume. To think that he's going to sustain that might be a little bit of wishful thinking. I just want
even if he drops 300, even if he drops 300 and he drops down to 500 snaps, it's not the end of the world because in that season that he had the 200 and something snaps, he still put up a lot of points kick returning. So that the baseline that he will give you is probably at least 100 all-purpose return yards per week.
Yep.
10 points. Amazing.
Yep. And I think you nailed it too, Aron, when you said the fear of overdrafting.
I remember Marcus Jones. Marcus Jones.
Do you want to be the guy walking away from the draft with Keyshawn Nixon, or are you going to let somebody else step on that one? I know there's a point where everybody is draftable.
Yeah. I'm trying to avoid that. I'm trying to avoid that trope where you're like, oh, I'll take anybody at a price.
Right.
I think.
But where his current value going? If you're looking at, like you mentioned the ADP earlier, he's going to be a top 10 at the position right now just because of that return yards. Is he going to return value if he loses those 300 snaps?
At the moment, he's going as DB 34, CB 9.
Oh,
if that's the value, if that's the value, I'm taking him all day. But I'm worried that we're going to see him up as DB5, DB6, because people like us all off season will be like, "Yo, the baseline is there, 10 points a week in kick return." People like us, everybody's going to be in there.
Don't leave your draft without drafting Keyshawn Nixon.
Exactly. Yeah. We're literally building our own monster, because we're don't worry about the hype. He's going to do it. He's going to smash. Go get it. And then, he's going to go as DB5, DB6, and I'm not taking him there. So at current price, absolutely, I'll smash on taking Keyshawn Nixon. But I think where it gets to full on draft season, when we're into August and we start seeing the reports come rolling in from training camp and things like that. Nixon is all-purpose, the nickel cornerback, and he's playing in Hafley's star role and all these sort of things. Oh. And you just see the ADP go whoop. And so no, I think once it comes to August, September, I'm not going to have any, but I'll try to get into a few more of these best balls, now and see if he's there outside the top 20 DBs. Then I'm like, give him here. Give him, come to Papa.
It'll almost be Cooper DeJean was taking some slot snaps today for the Eagles, and all of a sudden now he's going to be playing some offense. So it's just going to be, you got to love it. Got to love
again. I remember Marcus Jones. I saw the Marcus Jones, blow up season, and what happened with that last year. He was going as a top 4 DB last year, and look how that turned out.
Yep. You've got Post-it notes all over your desk. Marcus Jones, no matter what, right? Is that
No, they're all on my floor now. I've ripped them off. I ripped them off. I was so disappointed. I don't want to see them anymore, man. PTSD.
Well, I think that whole Patriots team kind of was that way, but we'll see.
God. All right. They've dominated the league for so long. They can have some bad luck.
That's right. They've only been good for 3 decades. So, all right. So let's put a ribbon on this episode. So, Aron, looking at defensive tackle, what tandem do you want at your defensive tackle? Do you want the AFC between Madubuike and Cameron Hayward, or would you like Harrison Phillips and who do we throw in there? Kenny Clark.
Right. You're asking me, do I want the guy that actually gets sacks, or do I want a couple of interior run stuffers? I'm gonna take the guy that I can hopefully pencil in for another double digit sacks and then old man strength. So I'm taking the AFC North, absolutely.
I'm 100% with you. So there's 2 points for the AFC. Moving to the defensive end position on the AFC side, we had Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. Or are you going to cause some controversy with a little Montez Sweat, Aiden Hutchinson vote?
I'm insulted you're even asking this one, man. Like, I feel like
moving on to the linebackers.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's AFC. Yeah. It's AFC.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And like you said, like you're taking the 1 and 2 at a position. It's not the 1 and 2 in the division. It's 1 and 2 across the entire NFL that you're selecting, and it's not even close. Not even close. So far, the AFC is 4-0 right now. So
sounds like a Super Bowl.
It does. Sounds like Super Bowl. Linebacker, going with the trio of Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen, Logan Wilson, or going with the trio of TJ Edwards, Tremaine Edmonds, and Alex Anzalone.
This one was difficult for me to sort of, because I felt like outside of Roquan, the drop off from my side was pretty big. And it's a lot of questions. But then looking over at your side, like I don't even know if you've got a Roquan to be able to sort of stabilize those questions. So I lean AFC because Roquan.
I'm kind of in the same camp with you. Roquan, I think, is just a little bit different level. I love TJ Edwards in Chicago. I'm a little worried that him and Tremaine Edmonds are going to kind of start canceling each other out a little bit more. But then it's really Alex Anzalone is my third linebacker, and is Jack Campbell start to step up a little bit and do what he should do as a first round draft pick. You know, linebackers drafted in the first round are huge success rate. Like he's gonna have to play, right? Like he's got to.
Put him on the damn field. Dan, put him on the field, bro. I took
bite some kneecaps or something. Yeah,
I took so much Jack Campbell in my rookie drafts. I like way sooner than I should have. I was like early second round. I was like smash, and then he had the season he had, and everyone comes sniffing. They're like, "You want to sell your Jack Campbell?" No. Unless you're giving me similar cost paid, like which nobody is in this draft. I can tell you that now. Nobody is coming and offering early seconds for Jack Campbell. It is not happening. So no, hold your Jack Campbell and pray.
But now maybe is the time to go and buy Jack Campbell.
Yeah,
right? Like
true,
if you,
true.
Yeah. So if you don't own him in the 4 leagues that you don't have him in, of the 100 that you're in, go buy him.
Yeah, unless the owner is like me and is demanding early seconds, at which point just.
For the record, what would you give for Jack Campbell right now?
See, it's weird. I probably wouldn't give much more than like maybe a third and a fourth. Like I wouldn't give. That's the thing. I'm sitting here as a Jack Campbell owner going, give me a high second for him, but I wouldn't pay, which is, the whole discourse of just, it doesn't make any sense. But if I think about where I would like, if you look at the big three from the like the IDP side of things for this year, it's like it's Verse, it's Turner, it's Latu. They're going back in the second, and it's like if I could get a late second for Campbell, like, or if I'm giving up a late second, to buy Campbell, would I rather just have one of those edges? And I'd rather just have one of those edges. But at the moment, I am up to my neck in sunk cost fallacy as a Jack Campbell owner, and I'm like, I need to recoup. But if someone's offering me like, that's it, Matt. No, it's copium. It is copium.
Copium at this point. Okay. Okay.
If people are offering me late seconds, I really should be going, yep, cool, and then turning those late seconds into Latu Verse, because edges, like the shelf life is so much longer as well. Like it's such a better position to be investing in, but I want to believe, man.
Yep. Hey, I'm with you. All right. So to recap, we got defensive tackle. We went AFC with Madubuike and Hayward. Defensive end, we went with the AFC with Garrett and Watt. We went the linebackers. We also went AFC with Smith, Queen, and Logan Wilson.
Did you put the team up?
I did not. We're still on the bus.
Yeah.
In the cornerback position, we have the duo of Dax Hill and Arthur Mallett versus Tyreek Stevenson, Brian Branch.
I mean, there's no verses. This is NFC all day long. And like as confident as I was in the first two for the AFC, I'm even more confident from the NFC side of things. Like this is a whitewash.
Yep. Strong safety position: Kyle Hamilton, Minkah Fitzpatrick for the AFC, Xavier McKinney, Cameron Bynum for the NFC.
I'm gonna lean AFC because I think if both I put Hamilton above. If I rank them, it's Hamilton, then Bynum, then McKinney, then Fitzpatrick. Forgot my own player. So it's like AFC sandwich sort of, or NFC sandwich, because NFC is in the middle. We got AFC bread, but I still think that if they all play to their potential and top of their potential, I think the two AFC guys would stack above the two NFC guys. I just think the ceilings are higher, so I'm going to lean AFC on this one.
I totally agree, and that's a great synopsis and analogy too. Like, I think there's some very thick bread on that AFC sandwich where that Kyle Hamilton slice of bread is pretty thick.
The sauce is soaked through the bottom though. That bottom slice is just hanging on for life. Just
really smashed down. It's like when you were a kid on a field trip and you had that smashed sandwich. Yeah. So
the mayo is soaked through, and there's a risk of the NFC falling out the bottom for sure.
Yeah. I'm with you. So strong safety side, we're going to take the AFC. Last position, our flex position, we had Trey Hendricks versus Keyshawn Nixon.
This is so like we had the big diatribe about don't buy the Keyshawn Nixon hype. Like don't do it. I'm buying it. I'm buying it. I'm literally going against the guy that averages 13 sacks a season over 4 years. Like someone's going to digitally slap me. Like I'm going to get like a tweet and they'll be like, "You are a clown," and I will just tweet them back with a big thumbs up and agree with them. Because I shouldn't, but I'm going to go to the north. I'm going to the north. I'm going to the NFC. Sorry, and I'm taking Nixon because he's got a better floor. Like if Hendrickson doesn't have the tackle floor. He just doesn't. So if he's not getting sacks, he's not getting you points.
And that, like with Hendricks, I'm with you too. I'm going to take Nixon because he had 214 points last season in Big Three scoring. Hendricks had 213 points in Big Three scoring, but Hendricks had literally maybe his best statistical season.
Yeah.
And for him to repeat that, there's probably less of a likelihood for Hendricks to repeat that than it is for Nixon to repeat that success. So,
yeah, I don't think he's getting 17 and a half sacks again this season. So.
Yeah. Well, so bust out my abacus here and figure out the scoring. That gives us a score of 8-4 in favor of the AFC North. That'll take the win in our first IDP Battle Royale of 2024. Aron, are there any final thoughts on the matchups, the players, or just life in general?
I'd like to thank the AFC North players for just being so good. I'd like to thank my Baltimore Ravens fandom for allowing me to know these players and not have to talk about a division that I would spend 3 weeks researching on and would not sound anywhere close to as cognizant about. So, no, I think I'm really, mate, I'm so hyped for this season. Like I'm two rookie drafts in. I've got another 3 to go. Like the best balls, like we've had a bit of a hiatus on those with the draft season coming through, but I think they're going to start picking up again. I'm going to probably spend my mortgage payment on those. Like I'm just, mate, football, inject it into my veins. Like it's
true. My
phone is just popping off. Like with Twitter notifications because OTAs have started and everything, so I can go back to ignoring my partner. And I told her I was like, oh, the off season's long, football finishes in February, and I don't pay attention until September. I lied. It is May.
I can picture you as the meme laying in bed with your wife saying, like, I wonder if he's thinking about another woman, and you're over there thinking, laying rolled over, thinking about IDP matchups on the lineup. Keyshawn Nixon
is it too early to take Keyshawn Nixon in the 12th round?
What round in my baseball draft? Yeah. Is there? You mentioned kind of some rookies. Kind of thinking ahead to next year. Are there any rookies you see this year?
Turner.
Sorry, what?
Dallas Turner. Instantly.
Think he'll be on this list next year for the NFC North?
Absolutely. Like if he gets that role and opposite Grenard, absolutely. He will be the guy that you'll be going, right, Aiden Hutchinson and Dallas Turner. And then we will be another year removed with TJ and Myles Garrett. And you'll be like, well, TJ's 31 and Garrett's pushing 30. And then it becomes a lot more of a discussion. I think Edgerrin Cooper in the linebacker spot. To again, NFC rookies, man, like they look good. I mean, we could probably look at Peyton Wilson there in Pittsburgh. Like I had a look at Queen's deal. He got a 3-year, $41 million deal, but pretty much all the money's front loaded. Like they have an out after this year. So we could very easily see Peyton Wilson coming through as like the linebacker to want there in Pittsburgh. I have so much wishful thinking about Odafe Oweh, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. I'd love to give David Ojabo my Achilles so he can repair that and get on the field. Like the Ravens edge room, I look at it and I'm like, there's so much potential. Like I look at Adissa Isaac and I'm like, third round pick, like he could be something. He's an athletic freak, and I'm like, well, we had an athletic freak from Penn State that we took in the first round and he did nothing. So there's so much that I look at and I'm like, maybe, but I think there's a lot more from the NFC side of things where I'm like, that's a lot more surety.
Yep. Yeah, there's definitely, like you mentioned too, like with the Packers being like the youngest defense in the NFL, like there's a lot of hopium going around in Lambeau area. So
mate, that whole roster is just like, it's like a JV team just based on age. Like not talent, just age. Like it is kids. It is children out there playing football.
Yeah. Well, hopefully by the time their senior year rolls around, they'll be pretty good. So they're not just getting rolled every week in the division. So,
dude, you know how it works. You get one Super Bowl in a 20-year window. That's you get it and you like it. That's how it works. So Jordan Love will win. Like he'll turn into a Hall of Famer, but he'll win one Super Bowl.
Yep. Sounds just like the last two quarterbacks that we had in Green Bay.
Exactly. 3 Super Bowls in 60 years, but Hall of Fame play for 60 years.
Yeah, we've been very spoiled at the quarterback position. So Aron, we're going to do a kicker show soon. Would you like to be on the kicker show? Because I know that you're rocking, the Justin Tucker jersey. Yeah. Well,
I mean, there's been so much controversy about AFC kickers in the press, and I wanted to let people know that there's a good one. And my man Justin Tucker. Not a lot of people rock kicker jerseys, and I love Justin Tucker. Like in the leagues that we are allowed kickers, most of my fantasy leagues have banned kickers a long time ago. They've been like, especially when IDP comes in, it's just easy to go, like, we've got all these extra players. Why are we starting a kicker when we can start an extra defensive end or something like that? Like, I love J Tuck, man. I love him. He's the best kicker. And don't come at me with Vinatieri. I don't want to hear about Seabass. Like, this man is the best kicker of all time, and that should mean something. It doesn't, but it should mean something. So I bought a Justin Tucker jersey.
All right. Well, do you guys agree with Aron and my takes, whether it be about the players that we selected or the way the points were distributed? We'd love to hear from you in the comments down below on YouTube or on the Twitter page. Hit us up with your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. That'll do it for this week's episode of the IDP After Show. Join me next time as I am joined by Evan Ringler as we dive into some early season ADP and do a little keep, trade, and cut exercise between some very tough positional battles. To be sure you don't miss an episode of that or any of the other IDP goodness, be sure to like, follow, subscribe, comment down below, and make sure you hit that notification button so you never miss an episode of the IDP Show or the IDP After Show. For Aron and myself, we'd like to say thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch up with you next time.
This was the IDP After Show.